Hello everyone and welcome back to our videos. Today we are gonna talk about engine fire, engine power check, shut down the engine, cold weather operation for the engine performance, and the last one we are gonna talk about DURATED engine. I will start with engine fire. If engine fire start or fire warning light illuminated during the start cycle, what should you do? You have to cut off the fuel and continue motoring the engine with the starter. If the fire persists, a small amount of CO2 can be discharged into the inlet, and you have to take this caution. Avoid excessive discharging of CO2 into a hot engine because the cooling effect produced by large amount of this agent can shrink the turbine housing around the turbine blades and causing disintegration. What that means? That means when the CO2 go to the housing of the turbine and a lot of amount of CO2, it will cool this turbine, and this cold will make the housing shrink, and when it shrink it will cause or it will affect our turbine blades. When the turbine will affected, they will make disalignment or will make crashing together between the housing and the turbine blade. Engine power check. After starting the engine and reading the normal instrumentation, it checks that the engine can produce takeoff thrust by calculating the APR or discharging pressure value, which represent the takeoff thrust for pre-flying atmosphere condition. That means when you start the engine, after you start the engine, you have to check the instrumentation of our engine to check that they are in the normal value, and to make sure that it will give us the thrust that we need, you have to use the throttle and make it up. After that, you have to calculate the APR or the B7, as we say, to say the power or the reading it was raised or not, to make sure that the engine is working or will produce takeoff thrust. After that, fuel barometric pressure can be obtained by setting the aircraft altimeter to 0 and then read the altimeter setting on the face of the instrument. If we need to say the fuel barometric pressure, you will go to the altimeter and make it on the 0 position. After that, you will see the reading of the altimeter in the instrument. After that, while advancing the power lever to the computed APR, carefully observe the EGT, the tachometer, fuel flow, and oil pressure to avoid exceeding the maximum limit. So when you will make the takeoff power, you have to focus on the APR, also on the EGT, after that tachometer, fuel flow, oil pressure, to say they are in the limit. If they are exceeding the maximum limit, so they are problems and you have to solve it. Engine shutdown. If you start the engine and all the reading is normal, so you have to shut down the engine. After the engine run is complete, follow the appropriate shutdown procedure before gas turbine shut down the engine. So you have to run the engine at idle power for 30 seconds or more before shut down the engine. This permits the temperature to stabilize and oil system to scavenge. Move the power lever to cut off or fuel shutdown position. cold weather operation. When starting cold soft engine in cold weather, they require special procedure. Using a ground power supply to ensure adequate rotational speed into speed 10% at least for successful light. If there is no indication of fan rotation on N1 tachometer, ice build-up could be interfering with fan rotation. That means when you will start the engine in a cold weather, you have to using ground power supply. Why? To make adequate or the appropriate rotational speed, and the N2 must excess to 10% at least. And if N1 didn't rotate or didn't give us indication, that means there are ice build on the N1, and you have to open the anti-ice system to make it rotate again. After successful engine start in a cold weather, after you start the engine and everything is good, the EGT may be much lower than during warm weather start. When you will focus on the EGT or monitor the EGT, you will find that the EGT it will rise, not like the warm weather. Also, the oil pressure may run full scale until the oil warm due to viscosity of oil increase as temperature decrease. The oil pressure also you will focus on that, it will not give us the reading as the warm weather. It's also possible that the lubrication oil system filter blocked warning light could illuminate until the oil temperature rise. When you have or when you say the indication that the oil system filter is blocked, that means the oil system is in cold weather. So you have to wait until the temperature of the oil rises. After that, the illuminate or the warning light of the blocked filter will discharge. Engine performance. Turbine engine performance is based on standard established by the Society of Automotive Engineers. This standard, known as engine power rating, and listed on an engine type certificate data sheet. These power ratings are expressed in value of APR, percent of N1, also the torque. The power rating common for turbine engine include, so we have a power rating for the engine of turbine engine, and these power include takeoff power, maximum continuous power, cruise power, maximum climb power, ground idle power, and flight idle power. What the meaning of takeoff power? The takeoff power is the amount of power is allowed to produce for takeoff. So it's the power that allow the aircraft for takeoff. Maximum continuous power. The maximum continuous power is the level used by discretion of the pilot for unusual or emergency situation. So this continuous or maximum continuous power, the pilot will use it when there is unusual or emergency situation. What about the cruise power? The cruise power is the power that used to extend an aircraft range by providing the best fuel consumption during a flight. No time limit in this setting is used for a cruise level. The fourth one, maximum climb, and this power is used for normal climb to cruise altitude. Ground idle is the lowest allowable engine speed for ground operation. And the last one, flight idle power, and is the lowest allowable speed for the engine in flight and used for descent, approach, and landing. The last thing we are going to talk about today, durated engine. Durated engine when the output power is intentionally limited to less than the maximum power the engine power can produce. That means is the using for the engine but not in the maximum power, less than the maximum power. Why they use that? They use that for three reasons. The first reason, when the engine installed an aircraft doesn't require the maximum rate power. The second one, accommodate component limitation such as rotorcraft transmission. When the component of the aircraft of the engine required to not limit to the maximum power, like the rotorcraft transmission. The last one, durating engine or durating an engine increase the engine life. So if the lifespan of the engine is 2 years, when you use durated engine and doesn't use the maximum power, the engine lifespan maybe will be 3 years.